Okay, good morning. We're continuing with the Maimer Parshas Lech Lecha. Hine Avraham is the name of the Maimer. Previously, in the previous chapter, we learned that Avraham Avinu reached the highest levels through his work, through his descent, through his primary work of elevating sparks. In this chapter, continue to explain that similar to this service of Avraham Avinu, every single Jew can accomplish through Torah and mitzvot. That specifically through fulfillment of Torah and mitzvot, we can reach a higher level that does not exist on a spiritual plane. Meaning, our neshama would not be able to have it if the neshama did not come down to this world. It's written in Bereshit Rabbah, Novlot Chochma shel Mala Torah. What does it mean? שהתורה היא בדברים גשמיים מבחינת חכים ולא בחוכמה ידיעה. כי הנה חוכמה עליונה אין לה השגה, רק דווקא בהתלבשות בדברים גשמיים, שאזי בלקיחת האתרוג על דרך משל, מאחר שהחוכמה מלובשת ברי זה כאילו אוחז בחוכמה העליונה. So the rabbi said in Bereshit Rabbah that the wisdom above, when you say wisdom down here and wisdom upstairs, what is the wisdom upstairs? It's called, as we said in the beginning, Avraham, meaning supernal wisdom that does not reveal itself. Wisdom that is concealed and cannot be perceived, even to the souls in Gan Eden. The Torah that we have in front of us is novlot. What does it mean? It's an out, almost like something that comes out of the Torah that is above. Obviously, the Torah that we have down here is from the Torah above. Chochma shelemala, wisdom from above, comes down to here. So the Torah above is the essence. The Torah down here is the external aspect from the Torah above. So is the Torah above is the essence, and the Torah down here is extension of it. Go ahead.
איזו רמה זו, איזו רמה של לימוד אני עכשיו לומד איתך, איזו רמה זו. נראית לי גבוהה מאוד שאני לא תופס. אני לא אדם טיפש. אני לא תופס, אני לא קשה לי. איזו רמה זו. גבוהה...
I don't know.
קשה מאוד,
I don't know.
נכון?
It's not
לא כל אדם חכם כמוך.
No, it's not there. What did we say? We said that there's Chochma Elyon and Chochma Tachtona. It's not like I didn't.
חכמה עליונה, מה היא?
So we mentioned it many times that you have the same way that you have the Torah down here in this world, the physical Torah. The Torah has to have a source. Everything has to.
The word that we have to read every day.
The same way that your son has a father and you have a father, meaning you have someone before you, right? Your father was before you and his father was before him. Before the Torah came down to the world, it has to have a source above. Okay?
Right.
The same way the Torah come here, there's a source above. Now what's the difference between the Torah above and the Torah down here? So he tells us, Torah above is concealed wisdom, is not wisdom that we can see. The Torah down here is revealed wisdom. Right. That's not. It's not very hard to understand.
Okay, it's okay.
That's all we said. That's all we said. So far. Yeah, he says Novlot Chochma means that the Torah down here is extension from something that is above. So what's the difference? It's like one is revealed, one is concealed. Torah above is hidden, cannot, even the neshamot. Wait, even the neshamot cannot understand the Torah above. It's still, he calls it built-in nitan la'asaga, cannot be perceived, and the Torah down here can be understood. To a certain level, we can understand it. So now, see, What is he trying to say? ולכאורה צריך להבין. Since there's no understanding in the Chokhmah above, how can it bring something that we have understanding? Meaning, if we call it a son and a father and a son, the father built in nitan le'asaga, cannot be understood. Suddenly the son, the Torah that is here, we can understand. How is it possible? If it's something that cannot be perceived, it should give birth to something that cannot be perceived also. You understand? If we cannot understand the Torah above, how can we understand the Torah down here? It should have been the same, meaning because it's the same family, right? It's the same source. So he answers it. איך באות ממנו נבות חוכמה שלפנינו שבהן יש השגה, אחת החוכמה אלה אינה בגדר סוג התגלות, איך יימצא ממנו עניין נבלות. If it's something that cannot be understood, we shouldn't be understanding it also over here. So he answers, והנה המשכת חוכמה עליונה בדברים גשמיים על דאור הכתר. So you have to understand. חוכמה עליונה, which is the Torah above, חוכמה עליונה, supernal wisdom, it's now invested in physical things. And dvarim gashmi means physical things. But how's it being done? Who is doing it? So he says there's a level called keter. The keter is the level that takes something that cannot be understood. Keter. There's a level called keter. Keter. There's a level called crown. The crown takes the power of the Torah that cannot be understood, and he injects it into the Torah down here, a level that can be understood. But that's being done specifically through keter. To take something that is godly and to make it physical. What is it? What do you mean physical? You're learning shor shenagach et hapara, shnayim muchazim batalit, two people fighting over an ox. What does this has to do with spiritual Torah that cannot be understood? Suddenly the Torah speaks about monetary issues. Oh, he took from me, I took from him, he owes me, I owe him. This is being done through the light of the keter. What is the light of the keter? That's a class for itself. But the idea is that you need to understand that keter is a level that is above chokhmah. You have chokhmah. If you look at a person's body, right? So you have his head and you have the torso, right? So the body, the head, has within it the chokhmah. Chokhmah, binah, dat, this part. Then this part has all the emotions, the feelings are coming here. That's why someone in love, his heart is start beating. Someone is afraid, his heart is beating faster, right? So that's the emotions are here. And ultimately the execution is in the hands, right? The power that Hashem gave us, the power to execute, to do things, is in our hands. So keter is above all this. It's on your head. It's not in your head. It's above your head. It's just like you take. It's power, a godly power of Hashem. Why we call it keter? Because the keter surrounds the head, and is higher than the head. That's why. What makes the king? Right, look at them. You see a crown. You see, it's a king. You take off his crown, he's like a regular person, right? So all we learned that the keter is the one that's in charge of taking chokhmah, supernal wisdom, and infusing it into our Torah that we can understand. The Torah speaks about very simple thing. Seemingly, Hashem tells us. Of course. Everything belongs to Hashem. Everything belongs to Hashem. Of course. But if you want to know deeper, what is the keter? Keter is the ratzon. Every person has a keter within him. You have keter, I have keter, he has keter. What is our keter? Is something that is higher than our sechel. What is higher than our chokhmah? Our ratzon. If you have ratzon for something, a will. You have a will for something, that's higher than your chokhmah. How do we know that your ratzon is higher than your chokhmah? because your chokhmah works for your ratzon. Ratzon doesn't work for chokhmah. Your chokhmah works for your ratzon, meaning you use your head to do what you want. So what you want is higher than your sechel. You understand? So ratzon is the highest level. That's why he said, "En davar haomed bifnei haratzon." Nothing can stand. If somebody really wants something, every day he's going to work for it to get there. He's going to use his intellect, he's going to use his body, he's going to use whatever he can to get to what he wants. So the keter is the ratzon. Keter is something higher than the sechel, is the level of ratzon. There's many levels in keter. There's atik and arich, there's the outer part of keter, the inner part of keter. Everything that you hear in Chassidut, Kabbalah, in Torah, you should know. In general, I think it's true in life. There's always pnimiyut and chitzoniyut, inside and outside. It's what I see on the outside and what there is on the inside. The inside can be completely different than the outside. Okay? So the same thing with keter. Keter there's ratzon, there's the outer ratzon. For example, outer ratzon is I want money. Okay? I have a ratzon for money. Inner ratzon is why I want the money. Why I want the money. So you ask somebody why you want the money. So he says, I want food. Because I want to buy food. So you ask him, why do you want to buy food? So he says, I want to eat. Why do you want to eat? Because I want to live. Why do you want to live? Why do you want to be here? If you answer that question, that's the inner ratzon. You understand? You dig in and more and more and more and more, and you try to find what he really wants. Why does he really get up out of bed? A lot of people don't know why they get out of bed. But when you ask him and they try to think about it, try to figure out, say, one second, why am I doing it? I'm working hard so I have money so I can eat. Why do I want to eat? Because I want to live. Why do I want to live? Why not just die? So you say, because dying is scary. Or I'm talking about regular level, not even forget Hashem wants us to be here. There's many reasons, but I'm talking about a regular guy in the street. Why do you want to live? He says, I want to live because what? Maybe he tell you dying is scary. No, he makes money because he wants to live. We pass the money. So why do you make money? He says because I want to eat, right? I want to have food. I want to have food.
Well, he could say he wants to take care of his kids, or he could say his mother, or whatever, or he wants to because Hashem.
But whatever he's going to say, you'll ask him, okay, and then what? Meaning, you want to take care of your kids. Why do you want to take care of your kids?
You want them to grow up good and be.
Why do you want them to grow up good? It's like you go deeper and deeper and deeper, and you'll find out the essence is somebody wants to live. He doesn't know. He doesn't know why he wants to be here. It says,
ask your mother.
It says, Al kochecha atachai. It's like, against your will you're here. Meaning you'll find out that not necessarily, a lot of people not necessarily want to be here, but they're here, Al kochecha, against your will, you're here. You have a mission to do. But the point that I'm trying to make is that there's always an inner ratzon. There's inner and outer. There's what people portray on the outside and what's really happening on the inside. You know, the biggest comedian, the guy that killed himself. You say, well, he's making... Right, he makes thousands of people laugh.
Millions.
and he's unhappy inside. So it means there's what you see on the outside, there's what you see on the inside. The inside is completely different. The inside, you can be a miserable person.
He had something. There was something wrong with him.
Right.
It wasn't so precious that it was just...
He had a feel something.
No, it wasn't just that he was miserable and he killed himself. There was something... a disease going on there.
Right.
It wasn't just...
When you see him on stage, you think he owns the whole stage. He controls it.
He did. He had
It's amazing.
He had a...
He's a head, he's a genius.
There's a lot like that.
I prefer Jackie Mason.
Jack.
He's
still like that.
Robin Williams was an actor as a
Right.
Oscars and
Right.
things.
Right.
It was nobody took it.
Unbelievable, right?
Yeah.
It's so weird. So that's why by us, by Jewish people, the Torah is saying what you do on the outside is nice, but Hashem yireh lalevav. What's happening inside? Very important. What's happening inside?
I went to Ernest Hemingway's house in Key West. He committed suicide, but what I didn't know was his family had a whole history going back
Of suicidal.
yeah, it wasn't like
Right.
it wasn't just like I'm gonna go do this.
Yeah. So it says, "Keoraita mechochma nafkat." This is a statement in the Zohar that the Torah came from wisdom. Okay.
אני עושה למשל בבוקר, אני קם ב5, כן? כדי לבוא להתחיל לשבע, שעתיים. אני לומד עושה את כל הברכות השחר, עושה את התהילים שלי, שאני קורא ספר כל שבוע, כל ספר, ואז אני 6:50 אני אומר, מה אני אעשה? טלפון, לא, אני אלך ללמוד. אז אני קם ואני בא, אני נפקדתי כבר שבוע לבוא אליך, כי הרצון שלי רוצה
ללמוד.
לשמוע, במקום לשבת על הטלפון ולראות...
Sometimes we don't know our tzon, but the neshama knows it. So the neshama pulls the person. The neshama pulls you. Right. So sometimes we,
לעדיף להיות לבוא, לשמוע, ללמוד, מאשר לשבת עם הטלפון בסלפון.
obviously, well, a cell phone is a waste of time. You get a cell phone is a waste of time. Every second you learn Torah, you're getting rewarded. You're being rewarded. You're giving nachat to Hashem. You're giving nachat to Hashem. So obviously, every second you can put away this phone. What do you gain out of it? Nothing. The phone is nothing. Over here, you gain knowledge. You're stimulated. Your mind is working. You're thinking. So the Torah is chokhmah. Torah came from chokhmah. If you say which, Hashem has many powers. Hashem has many powers. We have powers. You have chokhmah, you have binah, you have chesed, you have gvura. Which part Hashem invested in the Torah? With all his levels, all his powers, what did he invest in the Torah? His chokhmah. Okay, Hashem put in his Torah his wisdom. It says, sof maaseh v'machshava tchila, right? So there's machshava. The Torah has within it wisdom. The Torah came from wisdom. The wisdom of Hashem. Aval mekora u'lemala. The source of the Torah is rooted above. Shetaryag mitzvot d'oraita, 630 mitzvot in the Torah. And 7 mitzvot the Rabbanan. The rabbis added 7 mitzvot. How much is it together?
13.
613. And another 7, 620. 13 and 7, 620. How much is Gematria of Keter? Kaf, Taf, Reish. Taf is 400. Reish is 200. That's 600. And Kaf is 20. So 620. 613 mitzvot deoraita. 7 mitzvot the Rabbanan, the rabbis. 620. Keter is 620. It tells us that there is Tarach Amudei Or. Tarach Amudei Or means there is 620 pillars of light. And that's the mitzvot that we do. Imagine every mitzvah, mitzvah of limud Torah. And there's almost there's no mitzvah like the mitzvah of bitul Torah. It says that Hashem was willing to forgive al avon, gilui arayot, shfichut damim, meaning the cardinal sins, the most important sins, but he was not willing to forgive for bitul Torah. It should show you the importance of it. Why we should, every free moment that we have, we should use it for Torah. Because if somebody's working, say, okay, Hashem, I had to work to make a living. I couldn't learn. But if you have free time, so why don't you learn your free time? What are we going to say? We wouldn't know what to say. We have to try to maximize the time, every moment that we have. If you can learn this, Tehillim, if you can Tehillim, Chumash, you can Mishnah, even Sipurim, Sipurei Tzadikim. There's many things you can do. Yeah. והוא מאורחין לפלונית דגולגלתא בחינת כתר שהוא מלכות דאינסוף ועד זה נמשך למטה כל כך. So what does it all have to do with Avraham Avinu? Parshas Lech Lecha, Avraham Avinu is traveling So it says about Avraham Avinu, Shegilui bechinat Avram, or bechinat Atik Dav. That we learned before. Remember, we just said that Chokhmah Ilaha. Chokhmah Ilaha means the Chokhmah of the Torah in its root is invested in the Torah down here through the Keter, right? So Avraham Avinu also, his wisdom was brought down to the world also through Atik, which is Keter as well, the inner level of Keter. The inner level of Keter is called Atik, okay? Meaning, if you look on the Keter inside, the inner Ratzon, not the outer Ratzon, the inner Ratzon of Keter is Atik. And that is the level that's in charge of bringing Avram's wisdom down. Remember, Av is Chokhmah, Abba, and Ram is Ilah, Chokhmah Ilah, supernal wisdom, concealed wisdom. We're taking that wisdom of Avraham Avinu. Hashem tells him, Lech Lecha, bring it down. Bring it down to Artzecha, to Mulatecha, to all the lower places. Bet Avicha, house of your father, is a place of Avodah Zarah. Bring it there also. Right? And he says, Kol hagavoa yoter yachol laredet lemata yoter. If you see people that they are not keeping Shabbat and not eating kosher, God forbid, all these things, it says that neshama can go further down. Certain neshamot, they cannot handle it. The moment somebody is going a little bit to the left, right away Hashem is correcting him. It says the higher the neshama is, the lower he can go. The higher the powers you have, you can influence the lowest of levels.
That's why Yitzchak still with Esav.
Right. Correct. Bruchim to you.
Have a good Shabbos. I probably won't see you.
So the supernal wisdom being revealed in the physical Torah, if we call it Torah physical, how did it come down? Through Keter, which is the true source of Torah mitzvahs. So that's why the Torah, the mitzvahs, 613 biblical mitzvahs, and the 7 rabbinical mitzvahs are coming together to be Keter. And Keter itself has these two levels, the Arich and Atik. Arich Hanpi and Atik Yemi. The higher level is Atik, Malchus Ein Sof. And from Malchus Ein Sof, that's the Torah that we have. Now think about it. We speak about Atzilus. What is Atzilus? You have Atzilus, Bria, Atzilus, right?
Yeah,
4 worlds.
4 worlds, right?
But we're dealing now with Ein Sof. Remember, Ein Sof is the one that gives to Atzilus, right?
Right.
So he tells you, Malchus of Ein Sof. Meaning, within Ein Sof you have also Keter, Chochmah, Binah. Malchus of Ein Sof is the level that is invested in the Torah. Higher than Keter of Atzilus, higher than...
Malchus of Ein Sof.
Yeah. The Ein Sof itself is the power that gives to Atzilus. Revelation of the supernal wisdom, Amelubeshes, Parshas Kadesh, Al Derech Moshe, Yesu Megillah Chochma Atzum B'Mkim Ha'elyon, Lefi Shenimshach Al Da'keter She'amal Me'Chochma. The Torah that we have in front of us, the light of Keter itself, that is above Chochma, shines. And therefore, the revelation of Chochmah that is enclosed, for example, in Parashat Kadesh, Kadesh Li Kol B'chol, written on physical parchment, Klaf Gashmi. we know that the 4 parshias in tefillin, if you look at your head tefillin, you have 4 parshias in there.
Yes.
4 compartments. Each one has a parshia. One of them is Kadesh Likol B'chol.
Right. With the
Shmo v'yim Shemoya, Kadesh v'yo Kiviachol. So the first one is Kadesh, corresponding to Chochmah. So each parsha corresponding to another, there's 4 supernal moichin, and the first one is Kadesh. It corresponds to Chochmah. And it's even, he writes that, Ilamayla gam ha-Chochmah al-Yoinu, כמו שבמקום האצילוס. גמל מהחוכמה שבחינה שכל נעלה מקוריה. Says the mitzvah of tefillin, what shines, what radiates in the mitzvah of tefillin, the inner level of Keter. What's in the inner level of Keter? The essence of Ein Sof. And that is descending down. Velochen nasa yichud elyon al-yedei dvorim gashmim. Says, and that is the reason why physical things can create supernal union. What did we learn? The Torah that we have in front of us, you have Keter. Keter shines. Keter is above Chochmah. So self-understood that the power of the mitzvahs that was enclosed in physical things to activate and to cause union between the supernal spheres, the spiritual supernal spheres. Even though that physical act seemingly does not have any value in comparison to these levels, to these spiritual levels, but since the dvorim gashmin, physical things that we use to do the mitzvahs, what is vested in them is Keter Elyon. The mitzvahs have the capability to cause supernal unions even in the highest levels. Why? Because Keser is above spheres. So it's not because of us we actually do it, but it's because of the powers that are invested in the mitzvahs. What is the power that is invested in the mitzvahs? Keser. Tzedakah, for example, giving charity, creates yichud elyon, supernal union in Atzilus. L'mayla mi Gan Eden, Tanuk HaNeshama was even higher than the Gan Eden, the delight of the souls, Shu B'Briya. The delight of the souls is associated with Briya. Malchus da Atzilus nasa atik de Briya. And Malchus of Atzilus creates atik in Briya. Shemitzedek nasa tzedakah, dalad nasa hey. So this is the last point that we'll discuss today. He says like this. He gives an example of a supernal union that happens in Atzilus. Through Maisa Gashmi, through physical things that we do. For example, you give $1 to tzedakah. You create yichud, union, in the spheres, in the different levels, the different manifestations within the world of Atzilus. It says in Kabbalistic works, by giving money to the impoverished, to the dal, physical money can give him life, right? The guy's starving, give him money, now he has what to eat. So what happens above? You did chesed down here below. You were kind in this world. You created chesed and shefa to malchus, that is called dal. Malchus is dal. Why? Why are we calling malchus impoverished? Because malchus is receiving from higher levels. He's always receiving from others. He's a recipient. V'yichud. Now, this union is hinted in the word tzedakah. Why? Because malchus is called tzedek. Tzedek malchusu kadisha. Zohar, second portion of Zohar. I believe it's page 38. He writes, tzedek malchusu kadisha. Tzedek is malchus, and through ma'aseh tzedakah, through physical act of tzedakah, you're creating yichud in sfiras hayonis, in the supernal manifestation, zeranpi, the small face, the emotive attributes. And now we're adding the hay to it. Remember with Avraham Avinu, we're adding the hay. Tzedakah, you're doing tzedakah, you're adding a hay. From tzedek it becomes tzedakah. The malchus is called tzedek. And now, through the yichud, through the union that was created by you giving tzedakah, now it's called tzedakah with an added hay, which represents the character of malchus, that malchus receives from the higher spheres, from the higher levels. So malchus by itself is hinted in the letter Dalet, which is Dal. So it doesn't have. Leit lemigam klum doesn't have anything of its own. And doesn't have, with whatever it has, it's what receiving from others. But once it's unite with the supernal spheres, with the supernal manifestation, you create the union, then the Dalet has another. What's the difference between the Dalet and the hay? You're just adding a little dot. And now it's a tzedakah. Now this is what is explained in Zohar. It says in the Torah in a few places. Naro chesed choser hay. When, for example, a girl before she gets married, is a nar. When he gets married, is a naro. Naro choser hay, says in the Zohar in a few places. Zohar Chelek Aleph. Naro choser hay, when naro is not yet married, ein ba bechinas hay, doesn't have the hay yet. So the yichud, what is it trying to tell us? That the union between the midas and malchus in Atzilus that takes place through tzedakah, it's something much greater than the understanding of the neshamis in Gan Eden. Why? In Gan Eden is in the world of Bria, and there the neshama is having benefit, having enjoyment from the ray of the Shekhinah. It's a revelation, a ray from Malchus of Atzilus that is drawn to shine in Gan Eden, the world of Bria. But the yichud that happens in Malchus through Ma'aseh Tzedakah Gashmi, through physical act, it's Malchus K'moshi b'Mekeim b'Atzilus. Is Malchus the way it is in Atzilus? Shedavka Ma'aseh Gashmi Pol b'Chinas Malchus d'Atzilus. So Ma'aseh Gashmi, physical act, has the power to activate and actually activate Malchus of Atzilus. Poil affects Malchus of Atzilus. Why? Because the root of the mitzvahs is much higher than Chochmah, that is above even the concealed wisdom. So there's tremendous amount of power in mitzvahs. And when we do them, we create yichudim much greater than what we can ever accomplish in Gan Eden. Bochti.
See you on the other side, as they say.